It's okay to cleanse your body, like taking a spiritual bath with sea salt. They put sea salts in the ocean. To cleanse off energy. But remember, you guys, faith over everything. You don't need no red string around your wrist. You don't need no oil, no sage, no. Sure, you can cleanse the energy. Just remember, faith over everything. Go to the Most High for everything. If you've got a problem, if you need to talk, go to Him over everything. And all the trauma that you had in your life. I see a lot of people who's maybe been hurt or had their heart broken or whatever, and they'll say, you know what, I'm never going to love again. I'm not going to be in a relationship again. I want to keep my distance. But you know what? When you go in isolation, that's when God wants to start working on you. And He wants you to start to love yourself again, in a non-ego way, to be okay with your flaws, to be okay with the process, that it's okay. But there's some people who's supposed to be in this world to love. And God says a lot of people get angry. There's some people that's angry of that. They want your heart to turn black, to where you don't see no promise of love. You just give up on life. But God needs His, let's just say, love earth angels out there to spread that energy around. I'm not talking about going around and loving on everybody and hooking up with everybody. I'm not talking about it in that way. To love yourself enough that, you can't share your energy with everybody. To set boundaries and know when to say yes and know when to say no. And not be afraid, to stand up for yourself. But don't let that trauma stop you from being bitter of ain't nobody coming around. You know what I'm saying? I've seen a few people in the Soul Tribe, and I understand, because a lot of them, or some of them, are getting attacked so heavily right now to where it's just the energy they're picking up. God is going to send your people in. And if you're around people that's not your people right now, then please believe that God's going to remove those people one way or another. Pay attention to who's around you when you're sick. That's what I tell my children. Pay attention to who's around you when you're really ill, or when you're in need, or you're just down and out. Who's that person that checks up on you and who is there when you don't have nothing to give, or you don't have nothing, not coming around just because it's to get something. Look around when you're so down, and who's that person around. Hey, some of us ain't got nobody, but if you got somebody in your life who's still around when you ain't got nothing, and you're sick, or you're just going through a hard time, and tries to help nurture you, or checks on you when you don't need checking up on. Pay attention to those people, because right now God is removing people from your life, and it may hurt. Just to let you know, it will hurt. See, God sees things that you don't see, and you really need to use your discernment right now, because some people is just with you for your energy, or whatever you got. Who's the ones that are going to tell you the truth, and it's okay to tell you the truth, but it's going to help make you better. Who's going to help you shine bright. Really pay attention, because now's the time to really protect your energy. But don't take that trauma and think that if you are going through it, it's going to be forever that way, because God really is, if you haven't noticed, that God's really waking up his children right now. And some of us are further along in ascension. A lot of us, we're learning things from each other, from what experience, or, not only learning from Spirit and Father, we're learning from each other, to really protect your energy right now. And like I said, God is waking up, his children. And some of us are just now waking up. And I remember, when I first woke up, it's a lot to process when you go through this awakening. And to my ones that are on this awakening right now, I pray, that God blesses your soul and you stay strong, because this road is not for the weak. It's literally like everything that you've learned in your whole life, forget all about that. You have to relearn everything all over again. And you'll get through. But don't look at it as it's always going to be this way forever, and to not, be bitter about it. Because, like I said, God will put you through isolation. He will make you focus on him. Focus on yourself before he's going to put you with your person. And I'm not just talking about like a love relationship. I'm talking about even friendships. One thing right now that I know that God has been telling me is to focus on service right now. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, where you're like, God, oh my goodness, I got this and this and this, and how much more, and da-da-da-da-da. In service, I mean anything. It doesn't necessarily go out there and go paint a church or nothing like that. Even in your own home, what service can you do, or even in your neighborhood, or with, if you got children, or the people you do have around you. I'm hearing that focus on service, because I promise you, that good energy, that you put out, it's not only going to return to you, but you're going to attract, a higher vibration. And you are going to have a lot of people not like you, and that's okay, because Jesus didn't care. Jesus' heart, his heart was so pure, you guys, so pure, like the purest. And that Jesus, that just shows that God, he's love. And of course, God is also God-fearing. You don't want the wrath of God on you. Believe me, I would rather have the wrath of the devil than the wrath of God. Be careful who you attack, because you don't want to attack a chosen or an anointed one, especially not right now. I've been getting some downloads, you guys, that they're trying to send some really nasty energy right now, you guys, to make you tired, irritated, because it goes back to the movie I'm seeing, Sliver. And I don't know if you ever watched the movie Sliver with Sharon Stone. And she lived in an apartment building where there was hidden cameras everywhere. There's somebody watching. And somebody is being watched. And they want to put you in a light of just a bitter. And half the battle is knowledge. If you can recognize what's being sent to you, that takes away half of it. Another download that I got is also with the fruit. Watch the fruit you eat. You have, especially fruit. That's what I wrote. I wrote yesterday. Fruit, poison, fruit. Fruit. Be careful. Anybody giving you fruit, or just the fruit that you buy. Also, too, a lot of people can't get in your energy. Be careful. A lot of people is going to want to borrow things. They're going to want to use your items. You got to be careful of that, because they're running out of ideals, you guys, of trying to take you down. There's nothing they could do to stop whatever plans are for you. And let me tell you something. You got some powerful people, to my chosen, to where there are some higher up people who know who you are. Okay? You got some higher up, let's just say, even celebrities, they know who you are. Like I'm being shown the movie, End of Days, in the beginning of the movie, where they saw the star in the sky and they knew that a special baby was about to be born. Like, in the Vatican and the Pope and all, they know. Like, they know. They knew you were coming. And the one thing, not all higher ups are bad, because Spirit is even showing me that they're not all bad. And just like I talked about in the past, the movie Schools, there's some people who are saying there's limits on what we should do. There's some people you shouldn't mess with, right? That it's better to help. Because, if you help an anointed one, or you're going, trust me, you're going to get blessed. That God is really working on hearts, opening people's hearts, to stay in prayer, you guys. Another thing too, and I've talked about on one of my old videos, was there's a lot of people angry at the president right now, and I don't want to talk politics right now. And if you don't like the way things are going, or whatever problem you have, you guys, you need to pray about it. Tell God to intervene. But right now, we really need to pray. Father is telling me to pray for Donald Trump, because he's got a huge purpose here, and to just go back according to God's plan, and that's one thing I go to tell, if you're having a problem the way things are, because prayer really works, to pray about it. It's so simple, and to have faith over everything. These attacks are getting there. It's nonstop. I had a dream they're doing wound magic, where to the root area, to your wound, or your fertility, your come back to me spells. One thing, they can't attack you, so they're also attacking your children. That's another thing I had a dream about, where I saw my daughter in the dream getting attacked by somebody in the past, but my daughter stood up. Your children, God are having you really to raise them to be warriors, and to be the light. Also too, I get a download that there's people that are literally being mean to your children because maybe you cut people off to a masculine, which is, it's so cruel, to, be kind to the children, because, however children are treated, they grow up, you covet what you see every day, right? That if you really want change, you gotta do it according to the light. If somebody hurts you, don't go and turn around and hurt somebody else. But they really want you to be frustrated right now, because I'm going to be honest with you guys. Today I found myself getting frustrated. Actually, the past few days, finding myself getting frustrated. And I'm thinking, somebody's sending some nasty energy, and with just me recognizing, because I'm like, why am I so irritated? Just be patient, and to really sit by yourself. That's another thing I was told, is really go in and sit by yourself for a moment. Everything's going to be okay. Everything will pass. And another thing too, with your children, pray over your children, and don't get upset if they don't, God tells me they got to do their own path. They got to learn on their own. You can't force them or tell them what to do. You give them advice, especially if they're older, you give them advice, and you got to let them learn on your own, just like you had to learn yourself. There's going to be people who are going to try to come in between you and your children, because your children are so strong bonded. But don't worry about that, because love always wins. That your children are going to be okay. Just like how you turn out, they're going to be okay, because these curses are breaking. Everything's falling apart, crumbling. So the enemy's trying to do any and everything he can. Just remember to have faith. And even to the ones that used to be attacking, I'm hearing that some of them are starting to realize, like, wait a minute, I was on the wrong team here. Recognizing, and with your energy, you're even helping waking these people up. They're going through an ego death. You know, sometimes you maybe run into people in your life to where maybe you're not meant to stay, but just to kind of awaken them. You know, God is really saying to pray and have faith. Pray, 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 pray. And this is something I come on and I repeatedly over and over and over. You know, God is really cleaning things up right now. The ancestors are really pushing you not to give up. Don't give up. Keep going. They're really rooting you on. Don't forget to give thanks to your ancestors, because a lot of them had a sacrifice for you. I really don't even want to talk about the downloads. Something about a fraternity. I don't know. I don't even want to go into that. I really just wanted to come on. Don't let that trauma or that hurt to where it makes you bitter, to where you're like, where you stop believing in love. Literally. Don't. And like I said, I'm not just talking about relationships and like boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm also talking to friendships, you know, many other relationships. Your people are coming. I promise you that. Your people are coming. You do have a family. The soul tribe is going to come together. And a lot of us are already aware of some of our people out there. And we're given messages. And this was talked about a few other people too, as well as me, just like songs. There'll be a lot of times where I'll wake up and there'll be a song in my head. Pay attention to that song that's in your head, or a song that's in your head. You know what I do when a song's in my head? If I don't know the words or whatever, I immediately go to look up the lyrics, because there's a message in that. I'm all about a song, all about, you know, or you know, music. You know, last night I was outside listening to music and looking up at the stars, and even when things could be so bad, you could find the blessing in life, even in that moment. You know, so to really have faith with no sight, and don't be bitter. Don't be bitter. And to the ones just starting this awakening, hang in there. It's going to be a ride. But I promise you're going to come to, in your ascension, to where you're going to be happy, or you're going to appreciate all those trials and tribulations that you've been through, all those heartaches, because everything that you've been through has taught you something. Not only did it make you stronger, but you learned something from it. You learned something from it. And, you know, you move on. Because God is really cleaning up and he's even though maybe some of you have already went through isolation and you've already had a lot of people being removed, well, God's about to remove some more. God's about to remove some more things. So, but you're going to be okay. I promise. Because God, you know, ask for peace on your heart. You know, ask and you shall receive. I just heard that in my head. Ask and you shall receive. And I just saw 18:18. Ask and you shall receive. Okay? And I just wanted to come on here and say that, you guys. Just know that if you're frustrated and you're angry, and it, just remember, it's energy being thrown at you right now. It's energy being thrown at you. You know, you notice a lot of bugs. What was it, yesterday? There was so many flies in front of my door, literally trying to get in. Bugs, you know, mice. I've been finding a lot of dead mice, dead birds, out in the yard. And one of the dreams that I had was I was in a court and all these rats were coming down these pipes, but these rats, they were all dead. Rats are around you. They're, you know, being taken out. I promise you, life is going to get better. You're going to find your people. And God's going to send somebody for you who's going to love you for who you are. You know, never judge a book by a cover. That's another thing too. Because you might pick the wrong thing. You know, a lot of people, let's just say, for example, a masculine might pick the wrong energy. You might find a really hot looking girl and, you know, she got a great body, this and that. You thinking that's the one. But then there's another girl over here who maybe doesn't have the best of clothes and, you know, You know, a lot of masculine, a lot of feminine, they made a mistake. They picked the wrong one. Never judge a book by its cover. Just it goes to say, have you ever been with somebody or been around somebody, they wasn't attractive, but their energy, you were just like wow and awe with their energy, how it makes them beautiful. Or you can meet somebody who's so attractive, but once you got to know them, their energy just made them really ugly. Don't judge a book by its cover, God's saying. Pay attention to energy. Energy. And if you feel something's off, don't let that fool you. Don't second guess it thinking, oh, it's just because of that. Don't find an excuse for it. I'm telling you, don't find an excuse for it. It's a message. And that's all I'm going to come on here and say. 333, all journey long to the stars, baby. I love you guys. Bye.